Welcome to Professor Goop's Guide to League of Legends 2.0, now revised, abbreviated, made more simple, more clear, more concise, more effective for you, the person who wants to learn how to watch and maybe even play League of Legends. The subtitle of this is So You Want to Watch Worlds. Again, the League of Legends World Championship is coming up in just a few days here, and I am always inviting people into esports, into League of Legends to watch Worlds with me. And I figured for all of the people who are like, oh, I've never seen League of Legends, I don't know what it is, I don't know how esports work in general, I would make this so that those people have a jumping off point so that even if you've never played or watched League before, now you can. So, we've got some goals for today. Our goals are that by the end of this presentation, you should be able to explain the format and objective of League of Legends. You should be able to describe generally how team play works in League of Legends, and you should be able to casually follow a professional game of League of Legends. That one is like the most important to me of these three goals. And by the end of this presentation, you're going to be feeling like the girl in the car there who's just, she's ready to go. You're going to be saying, let's watch some League. Let's start with esports and the League of Legends World Championship, which is casually known as Worlds. First of all, why would you care about League of Legends esports? Why would you possibly want to watch it? Well, it's a little bit semantic in how you measure different things, but by most metrics, League of Legends is the world's biggest esport. In fact, Worlds 2020, that should say Worlds 2024. Look, I've already made a mistake. Worlds 2024 peaked at approximately 50 million viewers. 38 million of those viewers were located just inside the country of China, and that's all an estimate. It's hard to measure all of that, but the general estimate is about 50 million people watched the world final for Worlds 2024, which is incredible. It broke all sorts of records. It is also, in my opinion, one of the easiest esports to watch. A lot of esports are like first person and you're jumping around from player to player. League of Legends is top down, so you watch everything as it's happening and you can kind of pick what you're watching, right? It's like other esports are kind of like if you were to watch a baseball game from the batter's perspective, that would be interesting, but it's not always easy to follow. Like if you were to jump around from player to player, you might get a little bit confused as to what you're supposed to be paying attention to and what's going on in the game. League of Legends is much easier. You're seeing everything from that top-down omniscient view, and it's relatively easy to follow. There are confusing moments, don't get me wrong, but compared to other esports, I think it's pretty easy to follow. There have also been 15 years of professional gameplay in League of Legends. Like as an esport, it has staying power. It's been here for 15 years. People joke all the time. Some people aren't joking, but people joke all the time that it's a dying game, but it's not. It's actually getting more popular as time goes on. It's got staying power. So if you get into it today, you've got a hobby that you can stick with for a long time, almost certainly. And the last reason that you should care about League of Legends esports is that I like it. I like it, and I hope you do too. If you want to like things that I like, this is the esport to watch. Why should you care about Worlds, and what even is Worlds? Well, Worlds is the League of Legends World Championship. We refer to it as Worlds casually, and it usually happens October into November. Sometimes it doesn't get all the way into November. They've shifted the dates a little bit over the years, but usually it's like mid-October into November. This year, it will be the 12th of October through the 9th of November. And as we go forward in this presentation, we're going to cover the teams that are competing this year, where they come from, the format of the tournament, and also like some of the history, like who's won in the past and why that's important for today. You should also care about it because it's been hosted in some really, really wild places. Like they sell out ginormous arenas, like Beijing's National Stadium, the one that was built for the Olympics, casually referred to as the Bird's Nest. They sold that out. So it's kind of a big deal. And if you ever have Worlds is going to be coming to North America in a couple of years here. And if you have the chance to go to a game, if you're based in North America or if you're based anywhere else and it happens to be near you, an incredible event to go to, incredibly hype. You should care about it. It's very cool. Let's jump in with the basics of League gameplay. The first thing that you need to understand is that League of Legends is a MOBA. It is a multiplayer online battle arena. So what does that mean? There's a few MOBAs out there that you may have heard of. Pokemon Unite is a MOBA. Dota 2 is a MOBA. League of Legends is a MOBA. Mobile Legends Bang Bang on your phone is a is a MOBA. But MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. And in this presentation, we're just going to be focusing on League's core game mode, which is 5v5 Summoner's Rift. It's a specific map. The map is pretty much the same every single time. And this is the one that you see in competitive gameplay. There are other modes and maps that exist, but those are casual things. We're just focusing on the professional scene here because that's our goal for today. So that aside, let's talk about MOBAs. Multiplayer. Each game of League of Legends is 5 versus 5. There are 2 teams of 5 players playing against each other, and each player has a specific role that they play, and they play different champions that fit into those roles. League of Legends calls their characters champions. We'll talk about that in a second. It is an online game, which means games are played in real time. There are no pauses. The average game lasts about 30 minutes. You are expected to stay the whole time, and you can, if you are playing casually, surrender the game after 15 minutes. If you're like, this is a lost cause, I'm out, you will not see surrenders in professional gameplay. Players in professional play are expected to play to win and to play out the full game. Battle. It is a competitive game. There's only one goal: to destroy the enemy nexus, and we'll talk about what that means in a second, but it's important to know that there are no ties in League of Legends. It's literally impossible. The game cannot hit a stalemate at any point. If you took all of the players out of the game and just let it run by itself, it would eventually end. So both teams are trying to influence how that game ends, but it will end no matter what. There's literally no way for teams to tie in this game. And you're in an arena. And like I said before, we're focusing on the professional gameplay mode here, which is Summoner's Rift. This is the map of Summoner's Rift. You can see that there are kind of 2 sides to the map, split down the middle of the diamond. So there's the blue side that is in the southwest corner, and there's the red side, which is in the northeast corner. They're divided by a river in the middle, and going from each base, there are 3 lanes that go up the sides, each side respectively, and then 1 down the middle, and there's a bunch of trees and jungle, as we call it, in between. That's the bare bones. Multiplayer online battle arena. So we're playing in teams of 5v5 on Summoner's Rift. It is competitive. It's a time investment. It takes about 30 minutes per game, and we're playing on the same map professionally every single time. Let's talk now about the flow of your typical game of League of Legends. Every game kind of follows the same pattern. So if you think about like a football game, one team kicks off to the other, and then they're trying to make it to the end zone, and then maybe they make it, and then they kick off to the other team, and possession of the ball changes hands. Maybe they throw an interception, maybe there's a fumble, maybe they don't make their downs, whatever. You're going back and forth like that. That's the typical flow of a football game. Baseball games are the same. Each inning, one team bats, and then the other team bats, and you bat until you have 3 outs against you, and then you switch to the other team until you've gotten to the very end of it. League of Legends has a flow kind of like that. But there's also like a bigger overarching flow to how the game plays out. So we're going to talk about that now. The thing that you need to know, the most important thing that you need to know today about League of Legends, if you are trying to learn what the point of all of this is that there is only one goal, and it is to kill the enemy nexus before they can kill yours. You need to reduce its health to 0 before the enemy team can reduce your Nexus's health to 0. What does any of this mean? The first thing to know about League of Legends is that on that map, that Summoner's Rift map that was that kind of square shape, and you play on that diagonal, each of those lanes that we saw, the top lane, the middle lane, and the bottom lane, they have these little guys called minions that just endlessly march down the lane, and they try to beat each other up. As you play the game, you kill these minions, and if you do the last hit, if you do the last tick of damage to kill the minion, you get a little bit of gold. That is an important thing to know about the game. So constantly in the game, even if there were no champions, there would always be minions just marching into each other. We call them waves of minions, and the waves are crashing into each other all the time. So even if you do nothing in the game, there will always be these little minions fighting for you, fighting the enemy minions, trying to end the game like we talked about earlier. Also on the map, we talked about all of those little in-between spaces between the lanes with all the trees. We called it the jungle. In the jungle live different kinds of monsters. Monsters are neutral objectives. That means either team can kill one of them for money. These are your basic monsters, your small monster camps here. And then there's also some larger monsters called red buff and blue buff. There's 2 of these on each. There's one on each side of the map. So there's 2 on the map for blue buff and there's 2 on the map for red buff. And these ones you can kill to not just get money, but also a little power up for your champion that lasts a short amount of time. On top of that, there are what we call epic monsters. Classically, there is the dragon on one side of the map and there's Baron Nashor on the other side of the map. They create this kind of balance. These create points for the teams to fight about, right? They give them reasons to fight each other, because when you kill either of these epic monsters, you get a power up for your team. We call it a buff. Your whole team gets a buff when you kill either of these monsters. So they're kind of a big deal, and they're epic. They're hard to kill. This season, they also added Otacon. He's just like kind of a big yucky guy. There are no good pictures of him also. This was the best picture of him that I could find. He's kind of just this big chunky guy who shows up like halfway through the game, and he's hard to kill. He can like wipe your entire team out, and I don't think anybody really knows how to fight around him yet. But just know, it doesn't matter all of those semantics. Just know that there are epic monsters on the map, and they are reasons for the teams to fight, because when they kill the epic monsters, they get a power up for their team. Dragon and Baron, the purple and the red guys here, they respawn. After you've killed them, they will come back eventually. Otacon does not. Once you kill him, he's gone. So we've got basic monsters. We've got monsters that give buffs, give power-ups, and we've got these guys, these epic monsters that give really strong power-ups to our team. This is where all of those monsters are. You can see the yellow ones are the like basic monsters, and they spawn symmetrically across the map. So each side has each type of monster, and then also those larger ones that give the buffs, the red buff and the blue buff. They also spawn symmetrically with one on each side. And then down the middle of the map here is the river, and on this side there's Baron Nashor, and on this side there's the dragon pit. Otacon will spawn either up here on the top of the map or down here on the bottom of the map in the river each time. It's random every single game, so the teams kind of have to play around that. There are more nuances to these epic monsters, but this is the main thing that you need to know. Like, there's a couple other like monsters that spawn while they're waiting for Baron Nashor to show up. There are a couple of different kinds of dragons. We don't need to worry about those right now. Just know that in these pits along the river and on each end, there are going to be epic monsters spawning. Now that we know where all of the monsters are, also on the map, there are turrets. Turrets are structures that protect each team's base. Each side has them. They spawn in the same location every single game, and you can destroy them for gold and to make progress towards killing the enemy's base. If you get close to a turret and it is not your turret, it will attack you if you don't have any friends nearby. So if you have minions with you, it will attack the minions first, unless you hurt an enemy team member underneath the turret. Then it gets angry and it starts to attack you. Turrets do a lot of damage. They can be tricky to take down, but you have to destroy turrets to get to the enemy nexus. Here is where they exist. So each lane, this is the top lane, this is the middle lane, this is the bot lane. Each lane has 3 turrets in it. So there's 9 regular turrets total. And then the nexus has 2 turrets in front of it. These 3 turrets on each side are also protecting another objective. Inhibitors. Inhibitors perform one function on the map. They keep super minions from spawning. Super minions look like this guy. Super minions are exactly what they sound like. They are beefed up minions. They are the beefcake of the minion world. So if you destroy the enemy's inhibitor in any lane, super minions will start spawning on your side in that lane. So you get a big advantage from destroying these inhibitors, because suddenly your minions are like super powered. They're jacked. You want to destroy inhibitors because they spawn super minions in your lanes. Inhibitors are located, like I said, behind those turrets that are just inside your base. There are 3 on each side of the map, 1 for each lane. So if I destroy this blue inhibitor, suddenly super minions are going to be coming out of the red base in this lane right here. If I destroy this blue inhibitor, suddenly super minions are going to be coming down the middle lane towards the blue base. That puts a lot of pressure on the enemy team because super minions are hard to kill as well. They're easier for some champions. We'll talk about that in a second, but they're still generally a lot more difficult to kill than regular minions. Finally, you've heard me say that the goal of League of Legends is to destroy the enemy's nexus. This is the objective, the number one main objective, the only one that matters in the entire game. It does not matter how you get there, but if you can destroy the enemy's nexus before they can destroy yours, you win the game. Simple as that. The nexes? The nexes are located one on each side of the map in each of those corners, southwest and northeast. And to get to the nexus, you have to destroy every turret, so all 3 turrets, and the inhibitor in a lane, as well as both turrets that exist in front of the nexus. So if I'm playing on the blue team and I want to destroy the red nexus, the minimum amount of work that I have to do is destroy 1 turret, destroy a 2nd turret, destroy a 3rd turret, destroy the inhibitor, destroy a 4th and a 5th turret, and then I can finally attack the nexus. You cannot attack the nexus until you have destroyed every turret in that lane. It's also worth noting that you cannot attack an inhibitor until you've destroyed the turret that's in front of it. Now let's talk about champions. League of Legends has 171 playable champions in its roster. They release new champions a couple of times a year, usually like 2, 3, or 4. This is not the full roster that you're seeing on the screen here. This is actually pretty limited. This is an old screenshot, but because they release champions so frequently, people don't just like make these for every single patch in the game. So this is an old screenshot, but it gives you a good feel. This is a lot of champions. It's not all of them, but it is the good majority of them. But there are 171 playable champions in this game. This is why League of Legends is a tough game to learn, because to really master it, you need to know what all 171 champions do. And while you're learning all of that, they're going to release a couple of new champions. So it can be kind of tricky. But to watch the game, you don't need to know what every single one of them does. There are just a couple of general rules that will help you understand what's going on in the game. All of these champions, for the most part, fall into 1 or 2-ish of these roles. There are some champions that can kind of be played anywhere, but for the most part, most champions fall into one of these 5 roles: top, jungle, mid, bot, or support. What does that mean? This is how they might spread out on the map. You can see the top laners go to the lane that is on the top of the map. Easy peasy. The mid laners go to the lane that is in the middle of the map. Easy peasy. The bot laners go to the lane that is in the bottom of the map. Junglers hang out in between. They're traveling along in this jungle here, and supports, they hang out with the bot laner. Let me explain a little bit more here. Top laners are an island, they say. Top laners are going to go to that top lane at the very beginning of the game, and they're going to kind of spar against the other top laner. They're competing to see who can kill the other top laner and who can get more gold by killing minions or helping out their jungler. Usually top laners fall into a couple of categories. They're either, for the most part, this is painting with a broad brush, and I'm going to paint with a broad brush for every single role here. But usually they are either big, beefy boys, not always boys, but, big, beefy boys, non-gendered, who can just take a lot of damage and keep on going, or they're like fighters. They're like boxers who can do a lot of damage and take a little bit of damage, but not quite as much as the tanks. So you're seeing tanks and fighters for the most part in the top lane. In the jungle, you're going to see all sorts of different champions. Like kind of every trope fits into the jungle now. Sometimes you'll see fighters, sometimes you'll see mages, sometimes you'll see like assassins. Every once in a while you get like ranged champions like marksmen in the jungle. They can be kind of anything, but their job as a character is to move in the jungle to clear out all of those neutral minions that we talked about, and to influence the other lanes. So while the top laners are fighting against each other, maybe the jungler comes in and does what we call a gank. He ganks that lane, he comes in, and he helps his top laner try to kill the other top laner to get them ahead. So that's jungle champions. They are trying to clear out the neutral objectives, and they are trying to influence the other lanes. They are trying to get their team ahead. So they're kind of like supportive characters, although they can also do a lot of damage. They can also be the carries. In the mid lane, we typically see mages and assassins. These are champions who can put out a lot of damage and then get the hajonk out of there, okay? Usually they're very squishy, meaning they can't take a lot of damage. They have to kind of stay away from the fight and play really smart. But typically you see like your classical mages, like wizards, people who do magical damage, and you see assassins, the edgelords, things like that. They do a lot of physical damage. But for the most part, we're thinking we do a lot of damage. We cannot take a lot of damage. We have to play really smart. And because they're in the middle of the lane, they can move around and influence a lot of different places. Next, we head down to the bot lane. Classically, bot laners are marksmen. You're thinking of your standard like Robin Hood archers, things like that. This is Vayne. Vayne uses a crossbow to hunt vampires and demons. Usually, you're thinking your ranged champions. If you're familiar with Arcane, the hit Netflix series, Jinx is a bot laner. She is a marksman. She has 2 different guns that she uses to shoot at different people. These are what we call glass cannon type champions. They want to do an insane amount of damage, and they cannot take hardly a lot. They need help to get ahead, but the idea is that once they get ahead, they can carry your whole team on their back. They can do all of the work. Sometimes bot laners are not just marksmen. Sometimes they are mages, like Ziggs with the bombs there. And sometimes they're like assassins. Like sometimes champions like Yasuo, that guy with the flute there, show up in the bot lane. It's a little bit of a malleable role, but for the most part, especially in today's meta, they are typically marksmen, ranged carries. But that's why they need a support with them, okay? Because they are very squishy. They need somebody to help them out. This is Leona. Leona is a tanky support. And I say that because supports come in 3 flavors. And this makes sense if you've ever played D&D or anything like that. All of the supporting characters, or if you've played any like RPG type game, supports usually come in 3 different flavors. They're either big and beefy so that they can take a lot of damage, or they are like enchanters that can heal you or bring you back to life, like Milio here, who has the big backpack on, or they do a lot of damage so that they can do a bunch of damage, and then the bot laner can swoop in and secure the kill and get ahead that way. So there's kind of 3 different-ish ways that supports help out their carries. At the very beginning of the game, you're going to go through what we call champion select, where every player, all 10 players in the game, select what champion they are going to play. And before you get into a game, you decide what role you're going to play. So here's an example of a professional game champion select. This came from game 4 of the most recent LTA championship. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. Just know that this is the #1 North American team playing against the #1 Brazilian team, and they're going into game 4. You can see at the bottom of the screen here, there are 5 champions selected on the side of VKS. And over here, there are 4 champions currently selected for the side of FlyQuest, and Busio down here in the corner, he has not yet selected his champion. Above that, you can also see that there are 5 bands directly below my webcam. Each team gets to pick 5 champions every game. They also get to ban 5 champions every game. So you can see this side has 5 champions banned as well. In the middle, you see series bans. We don't need to worry about that so much. In professional play, they play now in this mode called Fearless. It's a very nuanced thing. You don't really need to know about it to enjoy watching the game. But it just means that if a champion has been played already, it cannot be played again for the rest of that series. So if you're playing 5 games, you're getting rid of a lot of champions by the end of it. You don't need to remember that. Don't write that one down though. This is what a typical champion select looks like in professional gameplay. Each side gets to pick their champions, ban enemy champions, so that they don't have to play against things that they don't want to play against, but they only get 5 of them, so they have to be selective in how they ban. They pick their champions, and then they load into the game. Once all of the players have selected their champions, we've gotten through what we call this the pick ban phase. Once we've gotten through picks and bans, we finally get to enter Summoner's Rift. This is what it looks like when you spawn into the game. So now we're going to talk about, in your typical game, what does the game look like from start to finish, from spawning in at the beginning of the game to the Nexus exploding at the very end of it. The game has officially started. We've selected our champions. We have spawned into Summoner's Rift. Here's how your typical game is going to go. The first thing that's going to happen is everybody's going to kind of spread out around the map. Usually people go to their lanes and junglers go sit by a buff. Sometimes laners will help the junglers kill one of their jungle monsters. But usually everybody spreads out. Occasionally in pro play, you'll see very exciting things where they try to like get a very cheesy kill on the enemy early to get themselves ahead. But for the most part, people typically spread out around the map. And then it begins what's called the laning phase. In the laning phase, all of those laners, mid laners, top laners, and bot laners, and supports, they go to their lanes and they start trying to get as many minions as they can, trying to last hit, get the kill on as many minions as they can so they can get as much gold as possible. While they're doing that, the junglers are doing the exact same thing. They are going around the map to all of those monsters in between the lanes, and they are trying to kill as many of those as they can to get as much money as they can. They may also dip into one of the lanes or two of the lanes. Maybe they're doing a lot of ganks. They might dip into one of the lanes to try to get a kill early onto an enemy champion to get one of their laners ahead or to get themselves ahead. That again is called ganking. It's what junglers do to get their teammates ahead or to get their team ahead. So during the laning phase, it's a lot of little skirmishes. It's a lot of like 1v1 and 2v2. Usually not everybody is involved in the entire fight in the laning phase. It's usually just these small little battles that happen as each team tries to get a little bit ahead. They try to get something over on the enemy team. The question now, as they're going around getting kills and killing minions and getting all of this money, is why? Why would they want to do this? Well, my good buddy Barack, I'll explain it to you. Money is power in League of Legends. Not directly, but money allows you to buy items. There's a lot of nuance to items, so we're going to talk about it incredibly briefly. Please know that this is not everything to know about items. This is the bare minimum. So in each base, there is a little shopkeeper, and when you return to your base, you can buy items from that shopkeeper. The menu for that looks like this. So this is what the item shop looks like. You can see there's a bunch of items on the left-hand side here that you can purchase, and some of those items you buy them and they make stronger items. You can buy things in pieces, but eventually you want these big, strong items here that do really powerful things for you. Sometimes they make your champion do more damage. Sometimes they give you special effects like abilities, extra abilities that you can use against the enemy team. Sometimes they give you things that you can use on your teammates to help your teammates. There's all sorts of different things. Again, it gets very nuanced, but we're not going to get too deep into it. There are a lot of items in this game, and typically different types of champions build different items. So big, beefy, tanky boys, tanks, they're going to build one type of item. Mages are going to build another type of item. Assassins are going to build another type of item. Supports, depending on what flavor they are going to build different items. There are different items for different classes, but this is one way that players can kind of customize their experience within the game. They can build different kinds of power so that they can affect the enemy team. That's about as far as we're going to go into that. The other thing that killing enemy champions and killing minions gets you is experience. And we love a champion with experience. As you can see in this image here, this is somebody who's playing the champion Ahri. She is a fox demon. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see all of the different abilities that she can use, just like in any video game. You have different abilities that you can use. You can see how much health she has in green. You can see the mana, that's her resource that she uses to cast spells. You can see all of her items over here on the right-hand side. And then this purple bar next to her picture is her experience bar. You can see that it is almost all the way full. She is about to hit level 6. The reason that you want lots of experience is because when you level up, everything that you do gets stronger. You do more damage, you get more health, you're able to survive longer in fights. You want to be a higher level than your opponents if you can. It's not the only thing that shows how strong you are, but it's like a very, very big one. If you are a higher level than another champion, chances are pretty good that you are able to beat them in a fight, or at the very least, they're not able to beat you. Something very important also happens at level 6. You can see that Ahri has 3 abilities that are like colorful right now. This 4th ability is called her ultimate ability, and it is currently grayed out. Most champions for their fourth ability. We call it their ultimate. And it does not unlock until level 6 on most champions. So she's about to unlock her strongest ability. Not every champion follows this rule. Everything in this game has an exception. You're probably figuring out by now. But most champions, once they hit level 6, they get their strongest ability or the ability that like enables them to do the most damage, to kind of fulfill their power fantasy as a champion. Usually you're kind of just like coasting until you get to level 6, and then you really start playing your champion. You really start playing the game. You start feeling strong. Experience is important. The other side of this, if you are not killing an enemy champion, you are dying. You're being killed by an enemy champion or sometimes an enemy monster or minion or something like that. But why does dying matter is the question here. And the answer is that the only time that you can get experience in the game is while you are alive. So at the beginning of the game, if you die, it gives your opponent, an advantage because they get a little bit of experience from killing you, but also while you are dead, they get a bunch of experience from killing the minions that you do not have the opportunity to get. Dying becomes really important as the game goes longer. Because death timers, the amount of time that you are dead for, gets bigger the longer the game goes. So at the beginning of the game, you might only be dead for like 10 seconds. But at the end of the game, sometimes you're dead for like a full minute, and the enemy team can do a lot and get a lot of experience in that time. If you are going to play League of Legends, the best piece of advice that I ever got when I was a new player was don't worry about getting kills, just try to not die. Because oftentimes, if you can do that, you can still get an advantage over your opponent. You do reincarnate. Yes, you respawn once your death timer is over. And you don't like lose gold or items or anything like that. It's not like Dark Souls where you like lose your power entirely. But you just don't have the chance to get experience. So try not to die. That's great advice for a new player. You'll also notice that professional players don't die that much. In an amateur game, you will see a lot of people dying. In professional games, they are very good at keeping themselves alive and knowing where to draw that line. We've started out the game. We're in the laning phase. There's all of these little skirmishes going on. We're trying to get gold. We're trying to get experience. And that leads to what comes after the laning phase, which is team fights and objective. The later the game goes, the more of those epic monsters will spawn. So they'll show up and they'll force these moments where teams have to fight against each other because they want the benefit that you get from killing that monster, from killing that thing. They also want the benefit that you get from killing enemy champions. So usually after the laning phase, in the middle of the game, all of the champions will start to group up and they will start to fight each other kind of a lot. They're always trying to find some sort of advantage so that they can win a team fight, they can take an objective, they can knock down a turret, they can knock down an inhibitor, they can take an epic monster or something like that. They're going to put all of their resources into winning fights at this point as a team, not just as individuals laning against each other, but this is full teamwork mode at this point. Because once they have killed the enemy team, it is easy peasy for them to take these big objectives like the epic monsters. There are, as the game goes on, some variations on some of the epic monsters. Elder Dragon is one of them. Just know this is like the beefed up superpower version of the dragon. The other big epic monster that you slay is Baron Nashor. He is this big purple worm. Can I get a hashtag big worm in the chat? And again, he gives your whole team a buff. So usually fights break out around him because people want to get this worm. They want to take him down so that they get the big superpower buff for their team. This is one of the ways that games very often end, is fighting around the big worm. Yes, both teams can fight the same monster at the same time. All monsters are neutral. So they play for neither side, which means both sides can do damage to them. So while you're fighting Baron Nashor, the enemy team might show up and they might try to steal that away from you. They might try to like jump in there and just do the last hit, because the buff goes to whoever does the last tick of damage. Whoever reduces the health bar to 0 gets the advantage. So sometimes teams will try to steal. Sometimes they will come in and they will try to win a team fight while your team is fighting the big monster. So my team goes in, they start to fight Baron Nashor, and then the enemy team shows up because they know that we're weak because we've been fighting this big, strong thing. Rift Herald is the guy who shows up before Baron Nashor gets there. He happens in the like early game. There's also worth noting, there's another monster that shows up before Rift Herald called Void Grubs. They're yucky little guys. We don't need to worry about them. Just know that there's kind of always something going on. There's always some big monster to be able to take that helps your team. But remember, at the end of the day, the reason that you take any of these objectives is that League has one goal, and it is destroy the enemy nexus before they can destroy yours. So the reason that you want to fight around the big worm, the reason that you want to kill the dragon, the reason that you want to engage with yucky Otacon is because you want to get superpowers so that you can take down the enemy nexus. Anything that you can do to get an advantage to take down the enemy nexus. With that said, those are just things that help you. It is entirely possible to not kill a single epic monster, to lose every single team fight, and to still win the game if you can find a way to kill the enemy nexus. And that happens. Sometimes people stumble across the finish line. So remember, League has one goal. All of this stuff happens. The laning phase, the team fights, the objectives, all of that stuff, taking down turrets, taking down inhibitors. The only reason we do any of that is because you want to try to kill the enemy nexus before they can kill yours. I just want to make sure that no matter what we do, we are keeping our eyes on the prize here. This is the most important thing, the only thing that technically matters inside the game. So let's review. At the beginning of the game, you spawn in. You do your picks and bans, you show up on the map. Lane phase happens. That's where all of those little 1-on-1, 2-on-2 skirmishes go on. This lasts for quite a while, for the record. Then you get team fights and objectives. You're going into team mode. You're trying to take those big monster kills. You're trying to kill the entire enemy team so that you can knock down turrets and kill the enemy nexus. And then during all of this, you're getting experience. You're getting gold so that you can power up and hopefully win the next fight and snowball it into your eventual goal of killing the enemy nexus before they can kill yours. You want to see that sweet, sweet victory screen that my froggy friend here is holding. I know that's a lot of information, but when you watch the game, it flows pretty naturally. We did it at that point. Hooray! Victory! I had to include a Bluey gif. I'm contractually obligated. This isn't going to take too long, but let's talk a little bit about esports itself. Because if you're going to watch the World Championship, you need to know a little bit of what's going on in the world of League of Legends. Like not the in-game world, the actual real-life Earth world with League of Legends. So let's talk esports. The first thing that you need to know is that as of this year, there are only 5 regions. There used to be a ton of regions. They condensed all of them into 5, kind of. Each of these 5 leagues has 3 what they call splits. They're like mini seasons within the greater season that goes on over the course of the year. So think about like your baseball season. They play like 200 games a season or something ridiculous like that. Imagine that they split it up into 3 different chunks so that like spring is its own season, and then the middle of summer is its own season, and then fall ball is its own season, right? That's kind of how League of Legends operates as far as like the regular season goes. There are 3 splits for every region. The 5 regions are as follows. Here in the Americas, which includes North, South, and Central America, we have this year what's called the LTA, the League of the Americas. Over in Europe, they have the League of Legends EMEA Championship. It stands for Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Over in Asia Pacific, they have the LCP, which is League of Legends Championship Pacific. In Korea, they have LCK, which is League Champions Korea. And then in China, they have the LPL, which I actually don't know what it stands for. But this is what you need to know. There are 5 regions, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that relates to the World Championship Tournament. The thing to know when I said kind of, things are kind of in 5 different regions, is that there's like an asterisk on that already. This was the first year of them trying this experiment, but they've already announced that in 2026, they're going to split the Americas League back into 2 separate regions. So the Northern League will become the LCS again, and the Southern League that mostly focuses around Brazil will be CBLOL. That doesn't matter for this year, but it's important to know that this is literally the only year that the LTA will exist, but I will continue to call it the LTA for the remainder of this presentation. If you are watching this in 2026, know that it's now North America with the LCS and South America with CBLOL. So the way that the year pans out is that there are those 3 different seasons and they lead up to 3 different tournaments. So the first split leads up to what's called the First Stand tournament. They introduced that this year. It is 1 team from each of the 5 regions. The second tournament of the year is after the second split, and it's called the Mid-Season Invitational. It is 2 teams from each region. So there are 10 teams that compete total in Mid-Season Invitational. The World Championship, which comes after Split 3, which is coming up in just a few days here, you're never going to guess, it has 3 teams from each region. Kind of. If I could say a single thing without an asterisk, I would be so happy. The one thing to know is that LCK and LPL, so China and Korea, each of those regions are going to send a 4th team that is going to play 1 series, and the team that wins that series, that best of 5 series, gets to be the 4th team for their region, and the other team goes home. So 4 of the 5 regions are going to have 3 teams. 1 of them is going to have 4. That's all you need to know there. Let's talk about each of those regions and who they're bringing to Worlds this year. Korea, starting with the LCK, their number 1 team is called Gen G. They have won Worlds before, multiple times. Their number 2 representative is Hanwha Life Esports, or HLE, and their 3rd representative is called KT Rolster. They've been around in the league for a really, really long time. In China, from the LPL, we've got Bilibili Gaming. We've got Anyone's Legend, which has kind of come onto the scene hot this year, and then we have Top Esports as their 3rd seed. In the LCP, which is kind of a brand new region this year, they have the best names in all of League of Legends. Their number 1 seed is called CTBC Flying Oysters. I won't get into the reason for that, but it's really good. Their 2nd team is called Secret Whales, and their 3rd team is called PSG Talon. If you know a lot about football, like soccer football, you will recognize PSG as a brand. It's the same PSG. Flying Oysters, Whales, and PSG Talon. Secret Whales, not just whales, Secret Whales. Over in Europe, we've got G2 Esports, which is like the most successful team of all time in Europe. We've got Movistar Koi, which is a relatively new team to the scene. And then we have Fnatic, who is one of the oldest teams in all of League of Legends. They have won a world championship, believe it or not. The very first one. It is the only title that Europe has, and it went to Fnatic. They're still kicking 15 years later. This will be the 15th world championship, and they are still here. And finally, we have the League of the Americas, the LTA. They are sending 2 teams from North America, and they're sending 1 team from Brazil. The number 1 seed is from North America. It is FlyQuest. The number 2 seed is from Brazil. It is Vivo Cade Stars. And the number 3 team is from North America. They're called 100 Thieves. Just like how the LTA will not exist next year, 100 Thieves will also not exist next year. They have already backed out of the league. They actually tried to do it a year ago, and they were told they need to stay in for another year. They tried to back out of the league and then get back into it, and the league said, "Nuh-uh, you backed out. You're out of here." So of course they qualified for Worlds. So those are all of our teams. The other thing to know, I mentioned that 1 match between the 4th seeds of LPL and LCK of Korea and China. That's going to be T1 and Invictus Gaming. T1 is from Korea. IG is from China. Both of these teams have won Worlds before, so them coming in as this, like, maybe they make it world seed, like 4th seed, is kind of wild. They're going to play 1 series to see which one of these teams gets to actually play in the tournament. The tournament proper is what we call Swiss stage. So Swiss stage looks kind of like this. This is a very confusing graphic. The moral of the story with a Swiss format is that it's one of the best ways to run a tournament. It's much better than just like a straight bracket style or a group style. Teams play against other teams that have the same record as them. So teams who are 0-0 play against each other, and then teams that are 1-0 play against each other, teams that are 0-1 play against each other. And then the winners of the 1-0 matches go on and play each other, and the losers of the 0-1 matches play each other. It's a whole thing. The thing that you need to know is that if you win 3 matches, you move on to the next stage. If you lose 3 matches, you are eliminated. That's all that happens. That's all that you need to know. So as a team going into this, all you need to know is I just need to win 3 matches and not lose 3 matches. You can lose 2 matches and win 3 matches and you're still in. No worries. But you need to win 3. If you lose 3, you are out. You do get a little bit of an extra chance. If you are on your 3rd match to win or your 3rd match to lose, it is a best of 3 series as opposed to a best of 1. So it's a little bit more complex. But this is how we parse down our teams into our eventual 8 teams that will make it to the knockout stage. The knockout stage is a straight bracket. You can't start out playing teams from your own region, so there's a little bit of nuance to it. But if you lose in the knockout stage, these are all best of 5 series. If you lose in the knockout stage, you are eliminated from the tournament entirely. That is the end of your run. With that said, these are the 8 best teams in the world, so it's still like quite an honor to make it to this point. Eventually, we get to 2 teams who play each other in the grand final. That's it. Easy peasy. You get that one play-in match. You get the Swiss stage where you have to win 3 before you lose 3, and then you get knockouts. And then we crown a champion at the World Finals on November 9th at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Just to briefly tell you, the folks in this picture, this is T1. They are the most winning team in all of League of Legends. They have won 5 world championships. They got their 5th win last year after a huge resurgence. In the history of the World Championship, this is how things have broken down. Fnatic won the first World Championship back in 2011. Remember, I said 15 years of esports. Taipei Assassins won in 2012. Fnatic is from Europe. Taipei Assassins obviously are from Taiwan. And then since then, the only teams that have won have either been Korean teams, that entire middle row is Korean teams, or Chinese teams. Invictus Gaming in 2018, Fun Plus Phoenix in 2019, and Edward Gaming in 2021. Those are the 3 Chinese teams that have won a world championship. Otherwise, you've got T1, who has won 5. You've got Samsung Galaxy, at one point Samsung Galaxy White. They've won 2. Damwon Gaming has won 1. DRX has won 1. That's the whole story. It's mostly been the Korea and China show, and since 2021, it has only been the Korea show. So while anyone can win the world championship, like it's competitive every year for the most part, there are some favorites that you could pick, which leads me to a couple of things. First of all, if you're watching all of this and you're thinking, wow, okay, I kind of get it. I'm kind of interested. You've piqued my interest, Goop. How can you engage with this? Great question. Well, Worlds 2025 starts on Tuesday, October 14th at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. It's very early in the morning. It is that one singular series, T1 and IG. The Swiss stage starts the day after that on Wednesday, October 15th. That's going to be a long day of games. So even if you wake up late, you will still be able to catch lots and lots of games there. And then it is off to the races from there. Games are happening nearly every day until November 9th. They space out a little bit more in the knockout stage, but there are lots of opportunities for you to watch incredible League of Legends gameplay professionally. The final happens November 9th, 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square. And you can watch on YouTube or Twitch. Both of those places, you're looking for the LOL Esports channel, or you can watch on lolesports.com, which just gives you a hosted version of the YouTube or Twitch streams, depending on which one you prefer. So there's lots of ways to engage with League of Legends esports. Thank you for watching this far. Thank you for watching this far. I appreciate it so much. I hope that you got something valuable out of this, and I hope that your interest is at least a little bit piqued.